Hi, and welcome back to Circles Theory. Today we're continuing on The Witcher and the themes that we can find within it. Specifically, I've been fascinated by the idea of monsters and how they are able to engage and live in our society. And I think that this is a really interesting story. Today we dive into Eternal Flame and the Sword of Destiny, a story dealing with how individuals integrate and are able to change themselves to adapt to a new social environment.
It's gotta be this time. Yeah. Sun starts to set and the moon should rise.
So there's a few ideas in this episode, this chapter or short story, if you will, that I think are really interesting. If you've been watching the videos on The Witcher, as we've gone through, what we really discovered is that the stories are less about The Witcher and they're more about the monsters that he engages with. The stories and questions revolve around what does it mean to be a monster, who are monsters, and how do we deal with them? And this has a direct parallel to social engagement and how we deal with those we demonize, individuals that are different than us, those that are so separate and hard to engage with. How do we do so? And these are the questions that The Witcher is dealing with. And this story specifically, short synopsis and spoiler alert ahead, it's a very simple story, right? Geralt finds himself to a town. He teams up with our favorite little bard. They go to an inn where they ultimately find themselves in a plot with an individual who has had his identity taken by a shapeshifter and is running around a town and seems he's racked up some debt and they're worried about it. They start trying to go through this process. From the gate, Geralt isn't willing to kill the monster, which is to the amazement of everyone else. He's a shapeshifter. He's disgusting. Look at him in his natural form. It's awful. Why don't you kill him? And his statement ends up being he's sentient. He's a sentient, aware, conscious, living, intelligent being, and I'm not going to kill him. And as they go throughout the town, what they find is their expectations are constantly subverted. They show up at the bank expecting all of this debt to be run up, to find out that the individual in the shapeshifter is actually a little bit better at the finances than the person he took his form from originally, and has actually made him a lot of money and a very wealthy man by doing all kinds of trades and deals with extended information. And so again, we start to see this change in confusion on how something so different from us, something so removed, could possibly be so effective and engage in our system. And then I think that the setting for this is really important. In this specific story, we find ourselves in a town and in an area that is greatly opposed to monsters more than any else. In fact, their whole religion and faith seems to be around being able to keep them out of the city. They are the story of walls and separation between the great unknown, the greatest separation and difference we can possibly find from the forest, the area where we engage and change and grow in a Campbellian sense. They have closed this off. And this is a city now where the religious leaders are making it very clear that they want this dealt with. They've heard rumors, but they're not willing for the rumors to get out. As they continue to engage, what they ultimately discover by the end of this is that the shapeshifter has assimilated extremely well, perhaps too well. And then it turns out that the religious leaders that are playing this game and perpetuating some of these monster attacking racist really concepts are themselves those shifters that have done what it takes to be able to survive there. And so ultimately the questions we're left with are, what does it mean to integrate and assimilate into a new society and structure? How far are we willing to go? Can we keep our practices and customs hidden? Are we able to help individuals when we do this? Or do we cause harm? Is it something we should be afraid of? Should we be afraid of the different entering into our city? Should we be afraid of them taking forms like our own? And ultimately what The Witcher tells us is that we probably shouldn't. And we should understand the distinction between the monsters of the forest and the unknown and the dangers, between those that are actually able to assimilate. And I find myself at the end of this story left with a great sense of empathy, because you look at the shapeshifter with this, the question of why do they have to be something other than themselves? And is that the type of society and structure that we want? So if you enjoyed this, you think these ideas are interesting, you'd like to discuss in theory or deeper ideas behind text, literature, philosophy. Please stick around, like, subscribe, comment. All of that helps. Check out another video. But until then, I will see you next week as we continue our way through The Witcher.